Hello indie game fans. As someone who absolutely loves the modern high-bit pixel art look, I'm always on the lookout for beautiful titles, so here are 10 games that I'm looking forward to, excluding games which I've covered here, and here, which you can find links to in the description below. Let's begin with Sons of Valhalla, a side-scrolling action strategy title that looks very much like Kingdom, only where you play as a Viking, invading and conquering England to save the love of your life. I do think that the lighting in this game is excellent, being a prime example of the wonders of modern technology, which can be used very effectively with pixel art, where the amount of detail in the environments is pretty amazing indeed. Unlike Kingdom, there doesn't appear to be any fantasy elements, just gritty old medieval combat, which is a touch of realism that would appeal to some. Perhaps the pixel art title that many people are looking forward to is The Last Night, capturing the hearts and minds of many at E3 2017, but updates have been pretty sparse in the 4 years or so since then. It is set, most interestingly, in a post-cyberpunk world where the menial jobs and drudgery have been taken over by robots and drones, and you play as a second-class citizen in this new reality. It's a cinematic platformer with its share of real-time action, looking very ambitious and also gorgeous, where the one line from the description that stuck to me is that the fight for survival doesn't mean food and water anymore, but a purpose for living. Do note that the primary developer of this is not shy about sharing his politics, for better or worse, so fair warning, do look it up or don't, but this is a beautiful looking game nonetheless. I always enjoy the concept of dimension switching in games, most commonly seen in puzzle and precision platformers, but is used in games like Guacamelee as well, with the next promising game to do so being Akatori. It's a combat-focused Metroidvania, complete with fighting game-style combo hit counter, where it looks like you're able to switch between a classic Japanese mythology-inspired fantasy world and a cyberpunk city filled with cyborgs and robots. You're ultimately trying to stop an ancient god from reawakening, presumably bringing with it all the bad stuff, looking like an action title of interest. I've mentioned A Space for the Unbound before, but we did get a new trailer, where this is one of the most gorgeous pixel art games in development. It's set in rural Indonesia in the late 90s, coming to us from Indonesian developer Mojiken, who has made a number of great indie games like When the Past Was Around and She and the Lightbearer, where this slice of life title simply looks charming. We do get a little bit more of a look at the gameplay, including QTEs, stealth and classic adventure game mechanics, giving us some idea of what to expect, so if you're curious, do check out the prologue demo on Steam. A title that I've had my eye on for quite a while is Windrunners, a side-scrolling dogfighting game that certainly reminds me of Love Rousers, only with pixel art that is so much more amazing. It does have quite the classic sci-fi setup that would not be out of place in the Gundam series, where the Empire, or the Realm in this case, uses their superior military power to keep an entire star system under their control, where a scrappy bunch of rebels are fighting for the freedom of the oppressed. As a member of this group, known as the Windrunners, use your aerial combat ability to take out your enemies, with one of the key features being the giant mechanical bosses. All that aside, the absolutely stunning pixel art in the environments is simply amazing, with parallax scrolling and some very impressive explosion animations, which just makes this a beauty. However, this developer has been relatively quiet on social media, so I have no idea on the progress, but something to keep in mind when considering pixel art titles. Another title that absolutely floored me when I first laid eyes on it was Chained Echoes, a turn-based RPG set in a world that mixes both fantasy and technology. As in the case with many entries in this genre, the backdrop of the setting is a world torn apart by war, but rather than two warring kingdoms, there are three here instead. Your group of heroes are travelling around the continent trying to bring an end to the war, with the expected political intrigue, betrayals, and unexpected swerves in the cards as well. I love the detail of the pixel art in the cinematic portion, where very interestingly, this game appears to have undergone somewhat of a visual transformation, going from this to this, where I do like the new version myself, but let me know what you think in the comments below. The classic turn-based combat system is in place, with the turn order part at the top of the screen and even an overdrive system that kind of looks like a limit break, so it's definitely one for fans of the genre.
Our world is splintered by myth. It is a shield against the unknown, and those who threaten that shield are banished.
We are the chosen. Unquestioning faith is our salvation.
Some defiant few resist from the shadows, but time has come for a champion to rise up and reunite this shattered world.
Doubt is disease. It must be expelled.
Another gorgeous pixel art title in development is Savior, another Metroidvania entry which I left off my previous list since I think it's still a ways off, but we did get an extended gameplay trailer that shows off just a little bit more of this game. The freeform parkour system is the highlight, where the developers describe it as pain-free, intuitive platforming, where if they somehow manage to nail this movement system, it will truly be something special in the space. You have a variety of weapons and tools at your disposal, used in both exploration and combat, but the diving off platforms, backflips, swimming and more looks really fun.
For centuries, our lights have been taken and thrown into the dark. And there, in the depths, together, free from superstition and fear, those lights have grown bright.
It's supposed to have an open world structure, with the game teasing a futuristic sci-fi city as well, certainly making this have promise. Going back to JRPGs, of course Sea of Stars gets a spot. Coming to us from the developer of The Messenger, definitely having a lot of Chrono Trigger vibes. The two main characters are children of the solstice, a lunar monk and the solar blade dancer, having to combine the powers of sun and moon in order to use eclipse magic to stop the monstrous creations of the Fleshmancer. On top of an amazing looking combat system, again reminiscent of Chrono Trigger, the developers talk about unshackled traversal, where you're able to swim, climb, jump off or hoist yourself up ledges as compared to the classic grid-based movement in this genre, which could potentially make the exploration much more fun. the developer has been releasing short videos showing off locations, concept art, mechanics and more, being fairly active on YouTube, which is nice to see. And while 2022 seemed like such a ways off when we last talked about this, it is just coming up in 104 days as of recording, so I absolutely cannot wait for this. Another fan favourite title is the turn-based strategy game Songs of Conquest, which has a very special place in my heart since it is perhaps the most promising candidate for a Heroes of Might and Magic-like game. As mentioned in my video covering my favourite games from my childhood, HOMM 1-3 were a pivotal part of my gaming history, where unfortunately, the IP now resides with Ubisoft, so I'm putting all my hopes on this game. It's a strategy title where you traverse the map, fighting enemies, gaining resources, upgrading a base and getting better troops, all in a bid to destroy your opponent at the end of the day. With a layer of high-bit pixel art on top of this game is simply amazing. Surprise! With a very special title coming in at the #1 spot with Momodora Moonlit Farewell, in theory, the 5th entry in the Momodora series following Reverie Under the Moonlight. As expected from developer Bomb Service, it looks like an absolutely amazing pixel art title, filled with challenging bosses, an intriguing world to explore, and what looks like an intriguing sigil upgrade system. In response to the lukewarm reception of Minoria, which, for the record, I thought was pretty good, this developer seems to have been affected by the response, which led them back to Momodora, so I hope that they manage to find peace with whatever monkey that is on their back, and hope that this title will live up to their own expectations as a game developer. I might be missing something, but I don't think that the developer has talked about story or lore of this entry, but given the track record, it should definitely be on the radar for Metroidvania game fans, taking the #1 spot. For more Metroidvania indie games, watch these videos and I will see you after the jump.